first episode of the Good Shit Show. My name is Lindsay, and before we get started, probably want to know who I am and why we're here and how we got here. So I am first and foremost a mom. I've got 2 kids and they are wonderful and they are the epitome of good shit. Literally, figuratively. There's so much good, there's so much shit that goes into raising these children, and I am so grateful to be with them on the daily. I'm also a teacher by trade. That is my vocation. I have taught elementary school, middle school, and I'm currently teaching high school, and I love it so very much. Above all else, I am a storyteller. And I've been a storyteller pretty much my whole life. I remember being in first grade and writing my first book, and it was incredible for a first grader. I know it was me, but I'm also an educator, so I can very confidently say that it was very well written for a first grader. It had a plot, it had conflict, and the main character was a cat, so what's not to love about that? As a matter of fact, when I was at daycare one time, I remember I was tattling on one of my friends, which was something I did all the time. And my teacher that I was tattling to stopped me and said, "Wait, are you telling me stories?" And that was her asking me if I was lying to her, and I misunderstood because I was a storyteller, and I said, "Oh, absolutely, I'm telling you stories. Do you like them?" It did not go well for me. But that is who I am, and so that's how we got here. This podcast is brand new, but it is actually something that has been in the works since 2009, and at the time of recording, this is 2024. So this has been a long time coming, since before podcasts were even a thing. So how did we get here? How did we get to a place where a high school teacher in Florida is starting a podcast called The Good Shit Show? Back in 2009, I was working not as a teacher, but as a broadcast journalist. That was something I always wanted to do. It was a way to be a storyteller and get paid for it. I remember seeing the news really, really early on in my life and wanting to do exactly that. I wanted to tell stories of people's real lives. I wanted to bring the news to the masses. And so I did that all throughout high school. I was president of the AV club in high school, and that is so fun to say, as I am now the week of my 20th high school reunion. Go Bulldogs. And I went on to college to pursue a degree in broadcast journalism. And after that, I went on to work in broadcast journalism as a producer. And this job was arguably one of the most exciting jobs I have ever had to this day. Every day was different. And I did get to do what I wanted to do. I did get to tell stories. The problem was, though, as the saying goes, if it bleeds, it leads. And so I was telling pretty gruesome stories on the daily, to the point of it was overtaking everything in my life. So one day I came home from work to my partner, and he and I had been married for a very, very short amount of time at that point. And like I had done every day before, I was ranting to him about all of the horrible things that were happening, not only in the world, but in the newsroom itself. I was in a safe space, so I was venting to someone that cared about me and wanted me to feel safe with him, but he stopped me in the middle of my ranting, and he said some words to me that I will never forget. He said to me, "Lindsay, you're a really negative person." And that shook me to my core, because at that point in my life, I did not consider myself a negative person. I don't think anyone who was my friend at the time, would have considered me a negative person either. But I was so steeped in gruesome negativity that it was consuming me. It was like I had been holding space for negativity in my job, and I just fell in. I just became consumed with it. And so at that point, I decided I needed to make a change. So I got out. I made a career change. I went into some marketing, some copywriting, and eventually went freelance for a while. And after some pretty, well, and eventually I came into education. And education is something where I do get to tell stories, and I love that. But unfortunately, I went into teaching in a really traumatic time. I went into teaching right before the world shut down, and then COVID hit, and I had cancer, stage 3 cancer, and I almost died, and I could go on. But it felt like I was getting hit by trauma after trauma after trauma. I felt like I was in the middle of the ocean and I couldn't breathe because I kept getting hit in the face with a new wave every day, whether it was something going wrong with my cancer treatment, whether it was the fact that my kids were now sick, whether it was arguing with my partner, and then a lot of other really crazy traumas just kept happening. And it got to the point where I had to suppress every single emotion I had in order to survive. I had kids to take care of. I had a body that I had to take care of. I had a family I needed to protect. And so I just shut down all emotions, negative, positive, all of it. Because I kept hearing in the back of my head that I was a negative person. And I didn't want to be a negative person. That's not who I wanted to be. So I shut everything down. Getting into teaching, I started learning more about neuroscience, specifically how the brain handles trauma and how the brain navigates emotional regulation. And I learned about the negativity bias. And the negativity bias is a real thing. And I believe in my whole heart that the negativity bias is a gift that keeps the human race alive. So I don't want to completely dismiss the negativity bias as all bad, despite its name. It does keep us alive. The negativity bias simply means that your brain is hardwired to remember and hold on to and retain negative experiences, negative feelings, negative comments, way more strongly than just a positive comment. So, for example, you could go to work and have a pretty run-of-the-mill day. Your email inbox is sitting. Most of it's read. There might be a couple unread that you have to deal with, but it's not urgent. You go to lunch and you're in line at the counter, and a well-meaning person behind you taps you on the shoulder violently and demands that you hurry up, that you're taking too much time. What are you doing? We have somewhere to be. And your body is unnerved and you are sent into a state of unsafety, danger, and your whole mood shifts. And then you go back to work, and then you have gotten an email since you were out. And that email is your boss requesting a meeting. Because of your feelings right now, because of the interactions that you had at lunch, you are automatically going to assume I'm in trouble because your body is now cued to see danger. So this can also be shown in a way where, like, you could be at a party with all of your friends and you're having the time of your life. You're celebrating your best friend's birthday. They're having a great time. And you interact with all these new people. You make a new friend. You exchange a number with, I don't know, a cute person. And then in walks your ex. Now, all of a sudden, that party was terrible. The worst party of your life. Why did this party have to happen at all? So this is the negativity bias, right? There were so many things happening at that party that were fun, that were great, that were enjoyable. But the one thing that comes in, your brain sees it, and instantly, that's all you can remember about the party. That's the negativity bias. This is designed to keep us safe. For example, as we are hunter-gatherers, we might be out in the woods, hunting and gathering as we do, and we come across a venomous snake. And immediately we run away. Well, the next day that you're going to be hunting and gathering, you're going to remember the venomous snake, so you're not going to go on that particular path. That's a way to keep you safe. But you are probably less likely to remember all of the berries that you saw that were good on that path, the way that the path led directly to water. There's a lot of things that you're probably not going to remember that are positive because that one negative interaction happened. Again, it's meant to keep us safe. But in 2024, the year of our Lord and Savior Taylor Swift, more often than not, we are not seeing venomous snakes coming across our path. We're not getting attacked by bears. We are more often than not pretty physically safe, right? But we might be threatened by an angry text from someone, an aforementioned email from a boss. We might feel threatened by someone pulling out in front of us. And so we are more likely to remember all of those things. When we really look around and start to look, we can see that we're actually surrounded by so much positivity and so much beauty. But the negativity bias is trying to keep us safe. So so let's pick it back up where we left off in my story of how we got here. So I discovered the negativity bias and I started to think about how I had seen so much trauma in a short amount of time between cancer and COVID and relationship difficulties and you name it, I experienced it. And so as a coping mechanism, I turned all my emotions off. And it did keep me safe. Much like the negativity bias keeps us safe, shutting down emotions is a way to keep you safe. However, because I was shutting out all the negative emotions, I was also shutting out all the positive emotions, and I was not adequately grieving the trauma because I was too hard. Because I didn't want to open up and hold space for the trauma because I was afraid I would fall in. So earlier this summer, my partner and I were sitting on a couch and I was thinking to myself, man, I'm really feeling like I need a snack. It's kind of early for dinner. And so I said as much. I said, I kind of feel like I need a snack. And his response was, oh, well, I just made a whole bunch of pizza rolls. And when I tell you, I leapt, my whole body leapt for actual joy over pizza rolls. And that unlocked something in me. Pizza rolls are not $1 million. They are not Taylor Swift tickets, but they sent me into an ethereal state of joy, and it was so beautiful, and I didn't want to let it go. And so I ate the pizza rolls, and they tasted like every other time I've eaten pizza rolls, but those pizza rolls, for better or worse, changed my life. And so from that point forward, I decided to start actively seeking out more opportunities to experience joy and to see joy. And so I started getting on my Instagram like a good millennial and talking into my phone about all of the wonderful things that were happening in my life that week. And I decided to do it on Wednesdays because it was halfway through the week. Friday gets a pass. Everybody loves Friday. Everybody loves the weekend. Monday, we don't talk about Monday. Tuesday is, oh, it's only Tuesday. Wednesday is like, okay, this is the middle of the week. So I really wanted to check in midweek. We're on our way to the weekend, but we still got a lot of week left. What is good? So I started asking everybody on my Instagram feed, what is good? What's good in your life? What can you see that's good? And I gave the example of pizza rolls. Again, it doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to be life-changing. It can be a snack that just hits different. So I started What's Good Wednesday, and honestly, I thought it was going to just be something fun that I did on Wednesdays, but then it kind of exploded. People were so eager to share what was good in their life. People were so excited to be a part of something that was positive, especially in the middle of a world where there is so much negativity. I mean, it's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. So that's how we got here. So the structure of this podcast is going to be as follows. It will have 3 parts to it. The first part is going to be Celebration Station. The second part is going to be the Shittergy. And the last part will be a benediction. Without further ado, the Good Shit Show. All aboard Celebration Station, choo choo. That is a nod to the very first school I ever worked at. Go Phoenixes. Every Friday at this school, we celebrate everything from your toddler learning how to use the potty, to making it to Friday in one piece, to obviously payday. We love that. And it is such a great way to end the week. And so I don't even know how it turned into Celebration Station, choo choo. But my youngest child is obsessed with trains, and so I'm just gonna attribute that to him. So this week's Celebration Station is all me, because as a good teacher, I am gonna model it, and then going forward, it will be all you. So this week's Celebration Station, I've got 3 things. The first one is I have 2 cats, and if you own cats, you know that they are fickle creatures, and they love you when they want to. And when they don't want to, they don't want to. Both of my cats are indoor-outdoor cats. They usually spend the majority of their time outside. They'll come in, they'll get a little snack, maybe some water. They might take a nap on the couch, but usually they're out hunting birds, bringing us dead lizards, that kind of thing. Well, last night, my younger cat named Juliet, who is a muted calico, she got in my bed, and she slept in my bed next to me the entire night. Did not get up, did not attack my feet, did not meow at me for any sort of food, just wanted to snuggle the whole night, from the minute I got in bed until the minute my alarm went off. It was awesome. So that's the first one. The second one is, so I teach at a high school, like I mentioned, and I happen to teach physical education. And I prioritize play for these kids because most of these students haven't had recess in 4, 5, 6 years, but they're still kids. At their core, they are still kids. And there's a great quote by George Bernard Shaw that I just live by, and it's, "We don't stop playing because we grow old because we stop playing." And so I have instituted play as part of my physical education curriculum. And so I always organize games. I don't sit idly by with my whistle and bark orders at these kids. I am playing these games with these kids. And today we played sardines, or reverse hide and seek. And when I tell you, it was so fun. But the best part about it is that these kids are so close to adulthood, and they've got this feeling of wanting to look and act and be mature and adulty. And then we play a game like reverse hide and seek, and they are laughing, they are giggling, they are hiding in bushes, they are trying to climb trees. It was just so beautiful to see these kids be kids for once. And it brings me so much joy. And then the last one also has to do with kids. So not only do I teach physical education, but I also teach reading and English. And reading is something that I've always loved to do. And as a storyteller, it brings me a lot of joy. So both of my kids also love to read, and they are asked by their teachers to read for 20 minutes a day. And that, by the by, as a reading teacher, reading 20 minutes a day is so good. Read with your kids, read whatever. It doesn't have to be a novel. It can be an article, it can be a magazine, it can be a comic book or a graphic novel. I don't care, whatever. So take this life hack from me if you'd like to, and it is a certified life hack from a certified educator who is reading endorsed in the state of Florida. Here's your hack. So both of my kids need to read 20 minutes a day after school. It just so happens that their drive home from their after school program to our house is roughly 20 minutes in rush hour traffic. So I've decided, hey, work smarter, not harder. And so we play audiobooks on the ride home. Bam. Audiobooks count. If anyone tells you that audiobooks do not count as reading, they're engaging in ableist behavior, and you send them to me because I will tear them a new one. So we were listening to the middle grade novel Holes. And my older child has read it before and loves it. That's why that was the first book that we decided to read. And on the way home, my younger son, who has never read the book before, we got to the part where they explain kind of the main idea of the book. And from the back seat, my younger kid screamed at the top of his lungs, "Oh, that's why they're digging holes!" And if you've read Holes, you know. It was a moment of, quite honestly, it was like his version of the pizza rolls story. Like the same amount of fervor and excitement and joy that I experienced when I discovered there were pizza rolls, that came out of my kid about a book. And it was so awesome. So those are the 3 things that we are celebrating this week. So now we're moving into the part of the podcast that I am calling the shittergy. Now, I also cannot take any credit for the word shittergy. It was first used in a book club that I'm a part of that has been meeting over 10 years. And in that book club, we read a lot of nonfiction about, quite honestly, shit happening in the world, racism, sexism, xenophobia, and it can be really heavy sometimes. And what's unfortunate is that all of this stuff is happening around us. And so sometimes we will get, as a group of individuals, we will get weighed down by all of the shit. And so we will intentionally hold a liturgy or a shittergy for just the shit that is real. And that shittergy might include reciting poems, prayers, lighting candles, sitting in silence. But the whole point of the shittergy is to hold space, to hold that space. And it's so important to do that because if you don't hold space for the shit, if you pretend the shit isn't there, if you turn a blind eye, if you shut that part of your heart down, and I know this from experience, the other part of your heart will shut down too. So today we are holding space for the ongoing war in Gaza and in Ukraine. I had mentioned before that I am a storyteller and I am a journalist at heart. So I am always listening to the news. And while I was driving today, I was listening to the latest on the war in the Middle East. And it just feels interesting calling it even a war when it's more just a genocide. It's more of a, I don't even have the words for it. And so today I'm holding space for that. And I also say that to say that to focus on the good doesn't mean that the bad is ignored. They can exist in the same universe, and they do. And I think that's the most important thing that I want to bring about to this podcast, is that we can celebrate the joy and we can hold space for the shit and we can find beauty in between. So today, here is your benediction. May you celebrate your joys. May you hold space for the shit, but maybe strong enough not to fall in.